Right, we're live. What a voice.
I know. That's like if you weren't awake before, you're going to be awake now. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, June 16th, and this is Coffee and Pan Dulce. And we are getting our morning started right. And
yes,
I'm going to turn it over to our host, our producer, Christian Cano.
Thank you. Yeah, what a voice. It's, just by chance, we got Linda Ronstadt again on our mix of songs, singing a ranchera song. So, and I'll tell you why we're actually doing ranchera. So we will, looks like there we go. We've got We've got some people coming in joining us here, but listen, welcome to Coffee and Pandusa. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, along with Mama Ruth, Jenny-Jaymes Gunn, Barbara Bacon, Stephen DeFiore, and sometimes we do have Rafael Preto, a Charlotte journalist, LatinX journalist. We have a special show today. Today is actually June the 16th. I always have to check because the days go by so fast. And we want to thank you for joining us on Facebook Live, but also those who join us on YouTube and also Facebook later. Hey, Jenny, just to let you know, our Pride show's got like 3,000 views now, but that gun show, it's now getting 7,000 views. So every time we talk about guns, it's we should do every show now. Pride guns.
No, thank you.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's semi-funny.
Yeah, well, listen, thank you so much. Today we are actually going to be talking about Juneteenth, why we celebrate Juneteenth. But before we talk about it, we're going to go around and introduce each other, and then we also talk about current events for about 15 minutes. We started just about a couple minutes late today. So let's go around the Brady Bunch screen and introduce yourself and any imaginary button you have. If you have not watched the show before, Ron, welcome to our show. And Kass, also welcome. Just introduce who you are. Also, if you were wearing imaginary buttons, we started the imaginary button 3 years ago because not everyone actually had buttons. So Mama Ruth said, if I had a button, so that's how it started. So
I think there's definitely some internet issues because Mama Ruth just messaged into our internal messaging that she's struggling to log on since 9:55, and maybe Rom is. It quite possibly could be if he lives in Union County, he might be struggling as well. So there's some connectivity issues.
That's fine.
It's not important to the show, but just to keep people aware of why maybe Mama Ruth is not on this morning.
Sure.
But so let's get started.
All right, so let's go with Jenny, Rom, and then Kass. If you introduce yourself. I've got my A's going like Oz today for some reason. All right, here we go. Go ahead.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn. My pronouns are she, they. And my imaginary buttons, of course, would be to protect trans kids. Believe women, women's rights. We should have passed the ERA decades ago. And gun sense laws and Medicare for all. So whoever is after me.
I'm muted. I'm sorry, Ram, if you introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me on the show. My name is Mammadov. I'm running for U.S. Congress against Dan Bishop in District 9. I don't have to tell everybody who are actually politically involved, and those of us who know Dan Bishop, I don't have to tell you what kind of open racist and homophobic.
I think we lost his voice. Rom, sorry about that, but it looks like we lost your audio. So we are having the Russians are hacking must be hacking us today. So Kass, if you're on, if you can introduce yourself, please.
I'm having some challenges also with my technology. But my name is Kass Ottley. I'm the executive director and founder of Seeking Justice Charlotte. I am a social justice activist and a community organizer. And I'm really pleased to be on. Thank you for having me.
Christian, did you? I was actually talking.
Yeah, yes, Ram, your audio cut out right after you said your audio has cut out. So, well, Mama Ruth, why don't you go ahead?
Good morning, everyone. I am sorry for being late. I'm having logging in difficulties. I'm logged in my phone right now, trying to go into my computer. We started already. I'm sorry. I'm late.
Yes, we have.
Okay, so my name is Ruth Perez. I'm a community advocate. I'm also a co-host for Coffee and Pan Dulce. I also sit in multiple boards throughout the city and in 2 different counties now, in Charlotte and in Union County. What else? My imaginary button, everybody knows. I'm always fighting against gun sense reform, Medicare for all, and the rights for everyone. I don't see my good friend Jenny. Was she in today?
She was, and she got knocked out. She's back again. Looks like the gremlins are attacking all of us today.
We're having problems, yes.
I've got AT&T. Yeah, we've got 2 separate AT&T lines here. One's dedicated just for the show, one's for also work. So I'm gonna blame it on y'all. So let's blame it on Barbara. Yeah. It's usually always Barbara, but let's loop back around to Ram. Ram, I'm sorry, you actually cut off after you said Dan Bishop was a racist, and then it cut off. And then it cut off.
I don't know if probably Dan Bishop's staff actually joined us, and they're trying to interrupt the meeting. But no, I was just saying that, I don't have to introduce Dan Bishop with his racist behavior and, proven record of discrimination against and hatred towards minority groups, right? As I was saying, that when other states marching towards brighter future, our congressman actually, with his rhetoric, his social media posts, agenda, and policies, pushing North Carolina into total oblivion and degradation. Right? So North Carolina truly needs a congressman who has been through a lot, somebody who worked for minimum wage, who suffered through racism and discrimination, who lived through not having health care and suffering with housing and education. So I'm asking everybody to join our movement to make a history, maybe first time in the last almost 60 years in the district. Check out my website, runforcongress.com. Join us. It's going to be a historic moment.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. So let's quickly salute. If you do have your cup, if you are drinking something this morning, Raphael, if you're watching us, drinking vodka, salute to your coffee, your neighbors on Coffee and Pan Dulce, as we always do. But also we want to thank our Pan Dulce sponsor, Manolo's Bakery. Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue here in Charlotte, North Carolina. There's Barbara's pastry. This is a concha. I actually did not go to Manolo's yesterday. I was busy, and so luckily I had some already in the refrigerator. And I have a pink concha that's in the freezer outside. It's my emergency concha, just in case I did not have anything. And I said, oh my God, I'm gonna have to pull out the pink concha. And luckily I didn't. But please support your Black and brown businesses during this global pandemic, and also as we come out of the pandemic as well. So that way, we can always buy local and support. So very quickly, because we're going a little over right now, the 3 current event topics. If Barbara was on, she would be excited that we continue to talk about these. The first topic, there is one thing in common for people who have been hospitalized. I believe it's since April, this study says. The one thing in common with people who are hospitalized due to COVID-19, and that one thing in common is they have not had a vaccination, which means that if you have a vaccination, you're not going to the hospital. And so I thought that was a very interesting data, that the people that are going to the hospital now with COVID are people who've never had a vaccination. So I think that's kind of telling. Second thing is Lou Gomer told one of the, during a House hearing, Lou Gomer, who was up for craziest congressperson from Texas last show, sorry. He actually asked the land management or some group during a hearing if it was possible to change the orbit of Mars and the moon so that way we could affect climate change. So he said he was joking, but at the time he said it, I've watched the video. It actually looked like one of those episodes where, remember, the former president said, inject yourself with whatever. And then he said, oh, I'm joking. I think he actually thought you could change. So that's the one. The next one is Tepper, the billionaire who owns the Charlotte Panthers here, has said that he's not going to pay for a new stadium himself, that he wants community involvement, and he expects taxpayers to also help pay for a new stadium. He was leaving that out, I think last week or this week. So if you want to comment on one or all three of these in 30 seconds, we're going to go around the Brady Bunch screen and tell us what you think. So we'll go with Mama Ruth first, Jenny, Ram, and Kass. So Mama Ruth, do you want to comment on any of those?
Tapper can sell his share somewhere else if he doesn't want to invest, because he would have thought about it from the beginning if he knew what he was buying. We talked about that crazy senator.
That's right.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. They're all in the same bucket, so I don't even want to go in there.
Yeah.
And what was the last one? I'm interested in
COVID-19.
I know that President Biden, it's challenging our country right now before July 4th.
Yeah.
For everyone to get vaccinated. And I think that's where we have to focus on and kind of bring that voice out and allow everybody or make sure that everybody understands the reality and the truth about what in danger we're going through if we don't get vaccinated, if we don't step out and get it done. Even our doctors, some medical doctors are cuckoos. They don't even know how to explain. They don't even know how to give the right, patients go and tell and ask, doctor, do you suggest, I have a diabetes too. I have blood pressure. I mean, do you suggest for me to get my vaccine? Oh, I should wait. Let's do some research. I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
It makes it seem like they're just testing us right now. It's not officially a vaccine. Yeah. So that's really bringing confusion to our community. Our people have to understand that for good or bad, let's get it done and that's it. Just go get it done before July 4th.
Excellent. Jenny?
Congressman Gomer, I mean, his words stand on their own. Even though I do believe that he may be sampling some of that Montana meth that Senator Daines was talking about, since we have a shortage of homegrown meth, according to his border report. That's and we shouldn't be allowing that foreign Mexican meth coming in here. But anyway, I don't know what they're smoking in Congress, but it must be good. Second is, what were the other two topics? Let's see, the stadium.
COVID and the stadium.
Yeah, we don't need any corporate welfare. If we don't have $15 an hour minimum wage and Medicare for all, we definitely don't need to be flipping the bill for a billionaire to build another playhouse for his multimillionaires to run around and throw a foosball in. Yeah. So we'll pass on paying for that. He can move the team somewhere else. For 8 parties a year, I mean, that's all NFL plays at home. So it's super ridiculous. It's time to stop those practices. And then the COVID vaccine. If you haven't had if you're above 16 and you haven't gotten the vaccine, it's because you willfully don't want to take it. Common sense. You can talk to any pharmacist in the country, and they can explain to you the efficiency of the COVID vaccine. So this is willful ignorance. This isn't woeful ignorance. It's the era of the Google machine. So it's time for people to grow up and take the shot, and let's get ourselves to that 70%. Start saving some lives. That's Excellent. It for me.
Thank you, Jenny. And Ram, if you want to talk about this, you can. If not, you're welcome to. If you'd like to comment.
Just a couple of sentences there. Absolutely, people don't use their common sense, right? Yeah. So there's still, unfortunately, you can see there's still people out there who don't believe that COVID exists, right? Ever existed, and they try to combat you with everything, right? They come at you trying to argue that, hey, that's a huge conspiracy, worldwide conspiracy. And as you mentioned with the previous president, trying to make fun of it, that you have to inject yourself with the disinfectant or whatever, drink that, injecting yourself, maybe I mean, people still not taking that seriously. That's what hurts. You gotta have to get vaccinated. Everybody gotta have to be vaccinated. That's it, period. Right. So it's so heartbreaking when you hear something like that rhetoric from, especially from lawmakers, that gotta have to stand up and actually advocate for what is needed for our society to move forward. So it's unbelievable that people still joking about that, especially on that level.
Exactly. And then Kass, do you want to comment on any of those? You want us to jump into the topic?
I don't mind commenting.
Okay.
As far as Bank of America Stadium, I definitely agree with Jenny on that. They need to handle it themselves. We have other things that are way more important that we need to focus on. As far as the senator, I don't know. It looks like a lot of them need to go, period. I don't know what they're smoking or if it's a dementia thing. I'm not really clear on what's going on, but it's widespread and it's really scary. As far as the COVID-19 vaccination, I know that, we're trying to move everybody forward to get it, but I also respect people that don't want to get it. If they don't want to get it, whatever happens to them, pretty much on them, so that's my take on those couple of things.
Excellent. So for me, the COVID-19 thing, I mean, I think that the science and the data, we've had Dr. B on here many, many times. The data shows if you get the vaccine, you're very unlikely to go to the hospital if you get COVID, and you're also unlikely to spread it to someone else. So that means the vaccine can't mutate. And that's, to me, really kind of an important thing. It's not just for you, but it's also for other people as well. For the stadium, I have said from the beginning, we should not spend money, corporate welfare. Jenny, I like that term, corporate welfare. We shouldn't spend money on billionaires. If you couldn't afford the stadium or you couldn't afford the team, then why did you buy the team? And so I just think this threat, like, well, I'm not going to do it unless you put money in. We got to start to say, all right, see how you like it in South Carolina. And so anywho, that's kind of what I think about that. With Lou Gomer, it's just, I don't know, it's just funny. So with that said, that was our current events round. Let's go jump directly into our topic. Today's topic is why celebrate Juneteenth? For those of us who grew up in Texas and probably all around the country, but specifically in Texas, because I think they were one of the first states to actually make it a holiday, a state holiday. I think in the 80s is when it was passed to make Juneteenth a state holiday. Juneteenth has been celebrated, but I remember a time, and I've said this several times, I remember a time in Texas when public education was really educating about almost everything that you wanted to know about Texas history. We focused a lot on Texas history, just a little bit on American history. And I remember learning about Juneteenth and celebrating it and going to school events, but also community events for Juneteenth, just as we did other events as well. And so I was very familiar with Juneteenth. When my family moved here, I was surprised on that there weren't a lot of people who knew about Juneteenth, but also many people, I was just surprised on that. So as many of you have probably read in the paper, there has been some controversy with a plantation called, and Kass, am I pronouncing this right? Is it Lata Plantation? Is that how it's pronounced?
It's Lata Plantation.
Okay, so my A's are just not right today. I'm calling Kass and Lata. So the Lata Plantation, which is owned by the county, it's a former plantation. The land is owned by Mecklenburg County here in Charlotte, North Carolina region. And there's some controversy. They were going to do some event on the day of Juneteenth, and I think some of the description of what was actually going to be occurring was, there was a lot, and maybe we can get Kass to kind of explain what happened then. But I do want to tell you a little bit of facts. So Juneteenth, actually, it's an observation of June 19th, 1865. It was the day, as we know it in Texas, that the Union Army arrived in Galveston, Texas. And the general, which I had to look up because I couldn't remember his name, but one of my elementary school friends played him in a play. It was General Gordon, I believe, General Granger. General Granger, when they landed in Galveston, he was reading some proclamations, and General Order Number 3, the proclamation that he read was, "The people in Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves, and the connection herefore existing between them because that between employer and hired laborer. That is what notified many slaves in Texas that they were free. Now, my understanding is the war had ended, what, 2 years ago or a year before this occurred, and it took that long.
No, Christian. Okay. So the Emancipation Proclamation was in 1863, 2 years before.
Okay.
The war ended in April of 1865 when the last of the Confederate soldiers surrendered 2 months before, or 2 months before. Okay. Because Texas was the furthermost western Confederate state, they just landed in Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865, letting everybody know you're free to go, that sort of thing. So that was the beginning of the Texas slaves being, that's why typically Texas, it was a very Texas centric holiday. Yeah. And the Texas became a holiday in Texas in 1980 was when it officially got recognized by the state of Texas.
So also a little bit of interesting, yesterday, the US Senate of the United States passed a bill to make Juneteenth a federal holiday. Interestingly, it was sponsored by senior senator from Texas, Senator Cornyn, sponsored it, and it passed. So now it goes to the House, and if that is passed, President Biden will sign the bill and make Juneteenth a federal holiday. It'll be the 6th federal holiday, I believe, here in the United States. But interestingly, Senator Cornyn, the Republican, proposed the bill last year after the George Floyd situation. And when he proposed it, there was a Senator Johnson, a Republican, who stopped it. And this year, Senator Johnson, the Republican, decided not to intervene. I think that was smart for him, Sam Johnson, as I believe. So with that said, that's kind of a little bit of history of Juneteenth, and that's terrible that 2 white Latinx people are explaining the history of Juneteenth. But we grew up in Texas, and I'm glad that we kind of knew this. So let's go to everyone else. Kass, we'll start with you. Tell me about Juneteenth, and if you want to get into the situation that occurred at the Lata plantation as well.
Okay. Of course, you know, Juneteenth is a
Kass, it looks like you are muted.
We lost her.
Oops.
Hold on.
There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a big celebration for us. But I think part of the problem with Lata Plantation is the fact that they decided to have this event on Juneteenth. And a lot of the issue was the wording. And I was I'm on my phone, unfortunately. So I'm trying to go to my photos to read it. And I'm not sure if it's going to cut my sound out. But if it does, let me know. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so the event was called Kingdom Coming, and it was supposed to be this Saturday from 7 to 10 p.m. And the description, it says, "Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Come out to historic Lata Plantation for a one evening event. You will hear stories from the master himself, who is now living in the woods. Federal troops, Yankees, have him on the run, and his former bondsmen have occupied his home and are now living high on the hog. Hear how they feel about being freemen. The overseer is now out of a job. What will he do? That he has no one to oversee from can see to can't see. White refugees have been displaced and have a story to tell. Confederate soldiers who will be heading home expressing their feelings about the downfall of the Confederacy." And so they picked Juneteenth for this, okay? And they didn't think that was going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And so anybody, please comment. Feel free.
No. Go ahead.
That's pretty cringy. I mean, and tone deaf. I mean, at the best. And I mean, I want to say some other things, but I really probably shouldn't say it on the air. But what an awful take in 2021. I mean, that wouldn't have been good in 1921, but 2021, what a disgusting, horrific, ignorant. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. I mean, obviously, that's just stupid. I mean, and I can see because I follow Jeff Taylor on the Twitter, and they're talking about this on there today, and that basically, I guess the Mecklenburg County is going to end or let their agreement with the lot of plantation expire for things like this. I mean, it has a lot of plantation obviously has a very cringy history, and they mentioned some of that in here, and just I don't know, you know, it makes it sound like the white Confederates were the victims.
Exactly.
White refugees. I mean, you know, I'm not a history expert, you know, just because I stay in a Holiday Inn Express, but I do feel that even the most basic American history or any, you know, Southern state history, you can't justify that in any way, shape, or form. I mean, the white slave owners and the white employees that enforced slavery were awful. I mean, they were awful. They were racist. They were inhuman. It's an inhumane practice that has kept a specific group of people down for 400 years, including now. And this just perpetuates the myth that Black slaves were having the good life on the plantation and so many other things that a lot of people are still trying to keep alive, that this was some kind of, I don't know, like a day camp or something. This was brutal and barbaric, and
so you know what,
voices
Jenny,
shouldn't be amplified.
no
I mean,
you know, Jenny, like you, I wasn't too familiar with what occurred, because when this went down, I think last Friday or Thursday or so forth, we'd started going camping, so I had very limited access. But then I saw some posting on Twitter or something, because I was able to get that. And what I remember from this is I thought, well, maybe it was, you know, like people here in Charlotte, maybe we misunderstood what it was meant to say and so forth. So then I read it, and then I've read the things afterwards. And I thought, Kass, you said it very, this was to occur on Juneteenth. And this was the event. So there was no acknowledgement that it was actually Juneteenth.
Correct.
And also the person who, I think the education director,
Ian Campbell.
Yes, when he issued his statement, it was almost like, well, it couldn't have been offensive to you because I'm Black. You know, it was
exactly
like
that makes it okay.
Exactly. So I thought I was like, okay, so how do I describe this to people who may not understand the offensiveness or the inappropriateness of this situation? So I thought it would be equivalent to our LatinX viewers if on not Cinco de Mayo, because that's we've talked about how that's not really a holiday. It would be like 16, our you know, one of our big holidays, Mexican Independence Day. It would be equivalent like if some restaurant here had come and learn how we make tortillas, or, you know, it would be something that would be culturally insensitive, and they would do it on 16. You know, and learn how wonderful it is that your mom knows how to make tortillas to make a living, and also cut the grass, you know, and it would be like, I cannot believe you're actually saying that. And not only that, but on 16, you know.
Well, I equated it to, you know, going to a Holocaust museum and then sympathizing with the Nazis, because not only is it Juneteenth, but you're at a plantation. And this is not the first issue with Latta Plantation. I don't know if you're aware that in 2009, for a school field trip, the same gentleman, Ian Campbell, thought it was a good idea to pick children to reenact picking cotton, and he picked all Black children. So the first incident, there were a lot of phone calls made. It was a whole situation with that. In 2009, I think the Arts and Science Council pulled their funding. And now here we are in 2021 dealing with this nonsense, and we're not having it. You know, and I get people, you know, I'm glad that Mecklenburg County has definitely, you know, cut ties with them. And people are asking me, are we still going out Saturday? Oh, yes, we're still going out to protest, because we're not allowing this.
Sure.
You know, and there's no excuses. There's no excusing what was said. And, you know, maybe it was for dramatization and all that. It was very calculated, the date, the wording. The overseer has no one to oversee from can see to can't see. So we're talking about from sunrise to sunset. And we know slaves worked until you couldn't see. I mean, it was very intentional and it was very hurtful. And the fact that no one is making an apology.
Sure.
There has been no apology, and the only response has been from Ian Campbell, who identifies himself as an American of African descent. Is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that is that's been, you know, we I don't know. I you know what, before I say something that gets me in trouble with Mecklenburg County, which is not uncommon on this show.
Well, some people from Mecklenburg County have weighed in.
Okay.
Commissioner Lee Altman says she supports canceling the leasing contract between the county and the plantation. Belma Leaks, Commissioner Leak says that she thinks the contract should be terminated immediately. Their contract does expire on June 30th, so it is expiring this month. Okay. And the county's already confirmed, Parks and Rec has already confirmed they are not going to renew the contract for sure. It does look like Director Jones says he believes a lot of plantation plans to cancel their summer camps based on their site, which is probably a really good thing to do. Yeah. And Velma made a very important point that we've had this stuff happen before, and that continuing to hurt, whether it's, you know, ignoring history, being tone deaf, hurts us all. It's wrong on every level to not admonish this, that this is how evil grows. This is how you have mass hysteria and racism and transphobia, is that if we allow this, if we ignore this very significant issue and we allow racism to thrive, it hurts me, it hurts everyone, and nobody deserves to have salt rubbed on a very deep wound because of horrific practices, including today, and not supporting restorative justice, not supporting reparations, and then having shit like this thrown in our Black neighbors, our friends, our loved ones, is exactly the way Kass said, which is going and wearing a Nazi uniform at a Holocaust museum. It is wrong. There is no justification for this whatsoever, and should never ever be attached to Mecklenburg County or any public funds or nonprofits again. Or they should have their head examined. I mean, they must be smoking what Gomer and Danes are smoking, because it's mind-boggling that we've ever,
and
that
that's why we have to stand up. You know,
exactly.
we can't allow these things to.
Well, you know, two quick things for those maybe for those.
And so happen, we have to come together and stand up and together unite. I think I'm losing my signal here.
You're kind of going up in and out.
I was just saying that's why we can't allow this to fester and grow. You know, when these type of things happen, we need to stand up and we need to respond immediately, and we need to show up. You know, a lot of times, you know, the first time it happened, we made phone calls, we wrote letters, and sometimes you have to physically show up. So this Saturday, we're uniting everybody to let them know that we're not going to allow this in this situation or any situation, because we have to stop it. Because if we don't, it's going to continue. And like Jenny said, this hate is going to grow, and we can't allow that.
Kass, you made a very good point. And I know people who watch the show know that, you know, Jenny and all of us, we try to support as many social justice groups, but there's a couple of groups that whenever they say they're doing something, we're at, because we know the individuals, and Kass, you're you have a group of individuals, or the organization you're with. I'm not sure if that's actually the group that's organizing this protest on Saturday, but I know you have done things at the Panther Stadium, the kneel at Panther Stadium, and I have made an effort to go during the game and kneel with your group. So I know when you're doing something, I'm like, okay, can I get there? Can I do it? Tell us what you're doing on Saturday.
Well, yeah, it's my organization, Seeking Justice Charlotte, and we're doing the event there. And we're coming out in unity. You know, we're coming out in love. We're coming out in support of, you know, truth, honesty. You know, you can't get to healing until you acknowledge the wrongs, and there's accountability and there's atonement. And everyone's like, oh, well, you know, Black people should heal and get over it. We can't get over it because of events like this and things like this that keep coming up. You know, so that's why sometimes you have to go to the site. Just like when I had the protest through Myers Park during George Floyd, there was a reason why I took that to Myers Park. You know, sometimes you have to be very intentional and let people know that we're not going to stand anymore, and we're going to come together. Not only are you going to hear us, but you're going to see us united. And so that's what we're doing Saturday from 3 to 4:30. Initially, the protest was going to be during the event, but they canceled it, but we're still coming out.
So, okay, so in case you didn't hear that, it's going to be from 3 to 4:30. Is that correct?
That's what we heard, 3 to 4:30.
Okay, excellent.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
Now, have Mecklenburg or, you know, Lata Plantation or has tried to get in touch with that organization and try to educate them, or try to, because that sounds like, see, I understand the point that it's very hurtful the way they spread it, but I mean, sometimes it's lack of education as well. We need to get those kind of people, those white you know, Americans that don't really know or don't really care about the history and don't take it seriously about a special day like Juneteenth month, to get educated and bring them to the table and make them explain to us, you know, how do they see it? What's their point of view as well? Because, you know, sometimes they probably don't really get the hang of it. They probably don't understand what's going on.
I'm going to respectfully disagree with you, Mama Ruth. I understand what you're saying, that maybe in some cases people don't have the words or
in
the
verbiage.
verbiage.
In the case of Latin Plantation, several people have reached out.
And so,
so we have to hold them accountable of hurting and spreading hate. Is that what I'm understanding?
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, for example, actually, Mayor Viles has also weighed in on this, and one of the things. Has she done anything
about it?
Well, she doesn't. The city does not have a contract with LATA. It is the county, and the county is.
But that doesn't take her away her voice as a mayor.
The mayor
for our people.
Oh, exactly.
So
the mayor should be there Saturday.
So what I am saying, and I'll just repeat what this is directly from her on Twitter. So I'm going to quote her word for word so it's not misconstrued. We should not support any business or organization that does not respect equality, history, and the truth of the African American people's journey to freedom. Despite intent, words matter, and the historic LATA plantation should know better. So that's a pretty strong admonishment, saying, you know, within the preview of a deal. I do agree she should be there on Saturday, June 19th, and should be there as a leader. Whether she shows up or not, she's not weighed in. Another thing, the LATA plantation has not issued a response in any way, shape, or form to this controversy on any public forum, nor have they answered any questions from reporters, including Ryan Pick and some other people that have reached out to them, and public officials have reached out to them for comments, and they have not responded at all.
But
And I've reached out to them for comments as well.
But at the same time, it shouldn't be Lata's plantation's responsibility as well. They are a facility where I can go and book for an event. They're not involved in that, are they?
No, I think
yes, they are.
Oh, okay.
I think, are y'all referring to the people that are currently have the management contract, which is Ian Campbell, because the county owns the actual facility, right? And so this group, this nonprofit group that Ian Campbell, they're in charge, they're the ones who like run it. Is that?
Oh, got you.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
right.
So,
he's the program
the ones
director.
that are organizing the event.
yes.
Right.
Okay.
So
all of the events, the tours for schools, all of that. And Ian Campbell is the program director. And they know enough about history to know that they were wrong. That's why they're not saying anything. And they're ignoring everyone's calls because we've called, you know, and tried to reach out. And they know that this event is going on. And if they wanted to reach out, they could reach out. They have not.
That's to me what was so stinging about this, and then we probably need to switch to more positiveness of Juneteenth here. But what was really stinging about this is the response from this nonprofit that runs this. The response was so arrogant and so I'm not going to apologize if you're
rude and disrespectful.
Yes, it's the old Charlotte. You get your feelings hurt, I'm not going to apologize, just get over it, you know, kind of stuff. And I'm so glad that what the county has done and said, all right, then we're not going to have your contract anymore after June 30th and go look for another job. Because that's really what we have to start doing to these individuals is we have to say, all right, then we're going to respond with the ability that we have, and you can go try to find a job somewhere else and do this craziness. And so even if let's say there's 6 people out there watching later on that say, well, they have every right to, you know, do what they want to do. All right, let's just say you're crazy enough to believe that. Let's just a devil advocate. You should at least be upset that the organization that runs this basically said, I'm not going to apologize. An adult would have said, I apologize if this came across wrong. We want to see how we can do this differently because we are managing a place that's owned by the taxpayers of Mecklenburg County, and we want to do what's right. But they didn't do that. They acted, and that's even.
And actually, if they wanted to do it somewhere else. You're doing it on a plantation on Juneteenth. So you can do whatever the heck you want to do, but you're not going to do it there. And not only sending a message to them, but sending a message to other people that might want to do the same thing, that if you try to do it, we're going to show up and we're going to shut you down because we're not tolerating this anymore.
You know, it's almost to the point, I'm sorry, it's almost to the point that they deliberately want to do that during this month, right? So first of all, what happened yesterday in DC, right? It's a milestone that it is long overdue. What was achieved yesterday is long overdue. But it is so sickening to see that some individuals, some businesses what they're trying to do, it's so disrespectful that they're spitting in your face, you know, even saying, well, I'm not going to apologize, you know. I mean, there's no sense of remorse anyhow, like trying to apologize, trying to show that they're sorry, right? It's just a coincidence that it happened. But no, they tried to show that, you know, it is done on purpose. That is the sickening part of it.
I agree, and I assure you, since Ram, since you're on the show today, I assure you that my crazy congressperson, Bathroom Dan Bishop, will tweet something in support of this thing.
Absolutely, as I was telling you, with his
yes,
he will support. And there's some people who are still supporting him. That's the sickening part, that people don't have a common sense, realizing that, look, my representative is an open racist. You know, he's got a long history of discrimination. Are we going to do something about that, or are we going to still sit silent? You know what I'm saying? That's the sickening part of it.
Yeah, I agree. And so stay tuned, watch in the next week. I assure you, he always jumps into things like this. And anywho, so Jenny, I don't know if you want to add something before we switch to something else, or
I always remind people the opposite of love is apathy. And when you look the other way, that's how good people get killed. We saw that in Nazi Germany. We saw that in our history, all the way leading up to the Civil War, is that people allowed things like this to happen. And as innocent as this event might sound, or tone deaf as it is not innocent. This is how you fester the virus of racism. And it is a virus. It is an epidemic. It is taught. You're not born to be racist. It is a taught behavior. And the only way that racism and bigotry festers and is fostered and enabled is when good people ignore this. And luckily, we have a ton of people in Mecklenburg County, like Kass, that will not look the other way. Nobody should look the other way on this issue. I'd shame on any group that would ignore this slap in the face of people that were murdered because of slavery. So there's a murderous, brutal, horrific practice that should not ever be made light of, should never ever be misconstrued as the white slave owners were victims. They were not the victims. They were the oppressors. They were the murderers. They were the enslavers. They were the cruel overlords of an entire race of people for profit. We should never forget that message. And that is embarrassing. And honestly, it's a national embarrassment. If this story gets traction, it makes me sad, as somebody that was born in Texas, born as a Southerner, that people bought tickets to this event too. So we don't need to forget this ticket. This was a $25 ticket. So there was people in Mecklenburg County, and I guess in the area, that was going to pay good money to go to this racist event. Let's not forget about this.
I believe it was sold out.
It was sold out, according to the Twitter, and according to Jeff Taylor with NBC News. And so this isn't just some backyard picnic that people showed. They're going to show up and they made peanut butter jelly sandwiches and they're going to have a little bit of a party. This organizational event. This was not an accident. Somebody just didn't have a brain fart and say this. This was a invitation only, $25 person event out on a publicly owned, Mecklenburg owned property. Let's not forget that. Organized by people that have a contract with the county.
Yeah.
So this is brutal.
It made it to the Washington Post also.
Yeah,
the Washington Post covered this. Right.
So let's do what we can. Those who watch this show, and if you live in another state, which many people who watch the show do, please support Kass's group and all the groups that are standing up for this, because these kind of things, our children are watching. They're watching how we reply to these things, and the fact that Kass's group and other people are speaking out against this, I think is teaching our children that as adults, we will stand up for what's for those things. And when it's not right, we're going to do those things. So if you can attend this event this Saturday, please be there from 3 to 4:30. Also, you can support them in many other ways, maybe some donations to her organization. They do wonderful group. I know your group has done things with Tent City. You guys are, I was going to tell you, the George Floyd March that y'all did through Myers Park, it was such a success, and we've joked about this. It was such a success that the city council person who represented that district at the time, during that march, they were
I know who you're talking about.
He literally on live streaming said, "I've got to go. They're marching through my district," and just like really just dramatically left. And then he videotaped
like somebody snatched him.
Exactly. And then he videotaped himself and said, "This is the end of civilization as we see it. They're marching through the grass." And it was so dramatic. That's why we started calling him Lady Tariq. It was so dramatic. It was like, so I do want to say,
God.
and then he showed, and it was like these, these Queen's University, students marching and this, and he was trying to make it like it was
peacefully.
It was very peaceful, but anyway. So thank you for that.
It was a mess.
Yeah,
but
so,
they can follow us on social media at Seeking Justice Charlotte. If they want to donate, money for water, I have a literacy program. We give out free books to kids. We do a lot of work in the community. So, and we always need volunteers too, so they can reach out in that way. But thank you. And thank you for always coming out and support. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you. I mean, I try to do what I can when I can do it, and try to stay in the background and support you guys. So let's end on something positive on Juneteenth for our Juneteenth show.
Yes, please.
So yes, so the good news is there's not a lot of really great things that we've had a lot to say on this show about Texas lately. I mean, they recently have to capture fireflies for lights at night now because they don't have power. I have joked with my dad, don't call me because I know you need to charge your phone. It's like a third world country looking at it now. Their legislation they've done, but this is one of the good things that I'd like to say about my former home state, Texas, that they have always supported Juneteenth. They were one of the first states to, understandably, because it happened in Galveston. So I do hope they continue. And there are people in Texas, especially new arrivals, who maybe don't understand the message of Juneteenth and the importance of Juneteenth. So let's try to continue this. And I hope it does become a federal holiday. It is something very, very much needed. And if no one else wants to add anything else, we will end the show. We're actually going to end early, believe it or not. I believe we have just a couple of minutes, but I do want to come around just very, very quickly to Mama Ruth and say, Mama Ruth, you look very nice today.
Thank you.
You got your hair a little different going on there. And so
I love her earrings. Her earrings are absolutely beautiful.
She's always got some great earrings and stuff going on.
So I would just say two things to Mama Ruth.
Sure.
One, I love her heart. I love the fact that she's a very forgiving person, and I know what she meant to say, that this could be a misunderstanding, and I appreciate your as a person of faith, you're willing to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and you are a forgiving person.
Positive side.
Absolutely. So I didn't want you to think that was an admonishment towards you. I just don't want our viewers to misunderstand that what they said and what they did, as somebody that investigated very deeply, and you may not have had the opportunity to do that because you're busy with the family, and I'm a single person with no kids, so I literally, or no kids at home, so I literally have tons of free time.
Well, I graduated last week from a program of investigators, Getting Ahead it's called, and I started facilitating yesterday to a new group. And something that I really learned, and hopefully, and I'll invite y'all to come over, we're gonna do the poverty simulation act, where we're gonna get DSS and some of the other groups to come and experience what our community goes through when they're in poverty, when they are in need. So sometimes we have to bring them the real movie to the table to make them understand. I mean, we have workers that they think that EBT cards refill every week. And it's not true. People only get a certain amount of money, and they work there, but they're assuming that you get a refill every week. So they need to, and they've been working forever, but I guess they never paid attention. So that's the way I want to see sometimes this type of information. Not to mention, we have senators that are dumb, that don't understand they're occupying the wrong seat. So what should I expect from some of these nonprofits that are putting out information that they're probably just heard, but they don't really know the reality, and they having lack of information. So we need to bring them to the table and explain to them what's going on. How do we feel about what happened? And they're not understanding our feeling. And they're just throwing out things out there without knowing how deep it is. So, you know, sometimes not everybody, I understand now.
Right. But I was going to say in this, the second thing was a more personal thing. Congratulations on your graduation. I did watch it. They did have a virtual broadcast. I watched her get her diploma or certificate or whatever it is. And she was so excited, and the whole group seemed like a really neat group of people. And I'm so excited for you, and I'm happy for you, and I'm glad you went through the program. It didn't look like it was an easy program to go through. It sounded pretty challenging just based on the descriptions and the speakers that were there. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I didn't even know you were going through that program. But it is super exciting. And I just wanted to give Mama Ruth a shout out and a congratulations, because I think we do that so little. We give people flowers after they're dead, but we should be giving people flowers when they're still living and still support each other in a constructive way. And I think we need more programs like what you went through to help uplift communities and empower people, especially women and LGBT and people that look different, pray different, and love differently. So thank you, Mama Ruth.
You know, I love you, Jenny. As soon as I didn't see your face today, I was like, Jenny here today or not?
Yeah. Well, you know, as they say in my house, send me money instead of flowers. So I just... I'm joking.
And if it's on Tuesday, send them tacos.
That's right. That's right. Hey.
I will never turn down well-cooked Texas original tacos.
That's
just
right.
So you know. My birthday is coming up in September.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Homemade tortillas is my kryptonite. So you know, they're amazing.
All right. So listen, we do value everyone's time, and we're actually on time. So we're going to end the show now. We're going to go around the Brady Bunch screen. Mama Ruth, Jenny, Ram, and
is it Ram or Ram?
Ram.
It is Ram, but we're gonna ram them.
Okay. Well, Ram, there is a huge Tejano singer in Texas called Ram Herrera. Huge. He was almost as big as Selena during the Tejano movement time. And so just to let you know, when I look at your card and I see the name, I keep thinking, for some reason, I think of Ram. Anyway, no one would ever get it unless you know what I'm talking about.
Now I miss his district. What district will he be running for?
District 9.
Okay.
You're in the district.
My district.
Yes. Currently, you're in the district. So right now
we don't even know where we're going to stay. Are we going to end up staying in our 9 district?
We'll find out next end of November, actually. So all right, so let's go ahead and end the show.
You belong to my district, dude. So right. I need to see you around.
That's right. Right there. Okay, so I've seen him at many events. So let's go around and Brady Bunch screen. Tell us where you're going to be in 30 seconds or less, and we'll start with Jenny, Mama Ruth, Ram, and then Kass.
I'm still working on a lot of Pride stuff. Of course, we have a Pride season coming up. We're going to do 4 months worth of events. So I've got a lot of that going on, and I'm hoping to go to a LGBT comedy show tomorrow night, if possible. And I've got a few other things going on, and I hope to make it out Saturday for the protest at the Lotta Plantation. I think that that's very important, and we need to uplift and support the community and keep the fight going.
Awesome. I will be, as y'all know, co-facilitating their second class. It was going really good. Most of them are from the shelter or homeless. So I'm very excited for this new group. Other than that, I just got a call this morning. They want me to moderate and be on a panel next week, hopefully Monday, And I'll send more details because I would like to bring them to our show. It's a nonprofit. Her name is Beverly Copperning. Y'all probably know her. She does a lot of filming and, you know, uniting our community. And don't forget, guys, this weekend it's Father's Day. A lot of us might not have our dad alive, but we do have our kids that are fathers or husbands or, you know, our soulmate or whatever. Even though you're a parent or pet parent, you still got to celebrate.
That's
okay?
right.
What else? I probably won't be able to make it to the march or to the event, the protest on Saturday, but believe me, I support 100%. If Jenny's there, I'm there. My heart's there. My spirit is there. What else? What else? That's about it. That's all. Next.
Ram.
Absolutely, thank you. Well, I've got a couple of meetings with some representatives from the LGBT communities, the NAACP. So my schedule is basically, my goal is throughout the summer, try to attend as many events as possible as a guest speaker. Mama Ruth, let's connect actually offline. Let's talk about like where would you like me to? I mean, we can talk offline. If we can meet and discuss a couple of topics there as well. But yeah, just, you know, the whole this week and the whole next week will be pretty busy with different events. And I'll try to also attend the march on Saturday. So I'll try to be there.
Excellent. And Kass?
Thank you. I feel great that everyone's coming out, you know, and trying to come out and support. Right now, I am taking donations of books for Black and Brown children. So if anybody wants to purchase any books or donate any funds to get any books, we're going to be giving them out at a couple of different events, a couple of Juneteenth events and events moving forward in different communities. We go out, we read to the kids, and then we give them books to try to promote literacy. So I'll be doing that. I'm on a couple of panels. I'm supposed to be speaking at the Harvey Began at the end of the month, but this Saturday, I will be out at Latta Plantation, standing in unity against hate and racism and bigotry. And so that's where I'm going to be this Saturday. So, you know, and if people want to bring water or donate water, that would be really helpful as well. And so we're going to be doing some different events around the city this summer and support. And I really would like to connect with Jenny as well to see how I can support with Pride and some of the events that they're doing as well. So again, I want to really thank you for giving me the ability to be on the show and also to meet all of these awesome people. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us. And we're going to the country for Father's Day weekend, but I'm going to try to delay it so I can go on Saturday. I think that's very, very important. And otherwise, enjoying the low humidity here in Charlotte. We've had low humidity and we finally got rain last week. So I'm very happy about that. And next week's show, we are talking about how to beat a GOP QAnon North Carolina congressman for just $458,749 or less. So Ram, you may want to watch that show. And then the next week, our last show of June is Who is America? That is a July 4th show, I believe, is the one that we will be talking about Who is America today. So listen, we do want to thank you so much. We do value your time. Thank you for watching us on Coffee and Pandusi, the small community show that we started almost 2 years ago. It is our 144th show in a row, by the way. And so we want to thank you for joining us. Please join us next week. I just want to say, one of the reasons that I like to go to these events, not only because they're good causes and stuff, but anyone, and we talk about this all the time, anyone who's moved or lived in Charlotte knows that people talk about things all the time. That's all they do is talk about things. And there's a time where you have to say, I'm tired of talking. I just want some change. I want some attention. And so I think it's important for us to talk and try to come to commonality, but there's also a time where we got to say, listen, we've talked long enough. Let's just do what's right. And so I think these kind of events are very important. So with that said, we're going to end on some more ranchero music. And if you're on Zoom, stay on the call so we can do a brief promo. Otherwise, if you're on Facebook, we'll see you next week. But we're going to end with some more ranchero music. Let's see if this works. That's called a grito, in case you haven't seen our grito show. Bye, y'all. We'll see you next week.